Hi, welcome to the Chad Bozarth Show. Thanks for listening. David, bonjour mon ami.
Bonjour, bonjour. How are you?
I am doing great. You know, these headphones kind of make me a little nauseous sometimes. They like mess with my
Mhm.
equilibrium or something. I don't know. Hey, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Of course, of course.
So, you are originally from France, right?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm originally from France.
Oh,
Grew up
man.
there and lived there until my mid-20s. Got to the US in 2011. Became a citizen in 2015.
What brought you to the States?
Well, I met my wife. We were both doing mission work in Mexico, and
Hmm.
we realized that we were following a similar path. We wanted to serve Jesus, and we got together there. We crossed the border into the US to get married. We were still living in Mexico at the time, and marriage in Mexico was just a mess to do for paperwork. Got married in San Antonio, spent another year in Mexico, and then moved to the US.
Hmm. How did you get saved? Did you get saved while you were living in France?
Yeah. So, wow, that's the question. My mom was a dropout from school during the hippie days, and she had met two Jesus people guys.
Hmm.
She was very close to going to India to go to an ashram, and she met these two Jesus people guys hitchhiking through France, and they got her saved. And so then she didn't go to India. Um, she instead started a. She had a couple of kids. She had three kids: myself, my brother, and my sister. And she tried to raise us in a godly way in France. Um, so we were homeschooled in France, which is very unusual. And we always tried to share the gospel. My mom was very big on us doing that. And so I grew up in the faith in that sense. When I was about 14, I was sharing the gospel with someone and I asked him, "Hey, do you want to receive the Lord?" And in France, it's just a very different, it's just not, it's just so different. It's so different.
Hmm.
You just don't do that. It was not a winning proposition generally to make that question, to offer people that question. But this guy, he said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And so I started leading him, kind of surprised, started leading him in a salvation prayer. And it was somewhere in the middle of that that I realized that I had this experience of the Lord, that he was real, that he was there, that he was, and I was like, wow, this is all real. And I just knew that I wanted to serve the Lord. I just knew that I had to do this more.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how I got saved.
What was that like growing up as a Christian in France?
There are Catholics in France, and I know that some of them do have a true, genuine faith, saving faith in Jesus. But generally speaking, it's more of a cultural thing. I would say less than 15% of the French are Catholic now. I mean, that would be from personal experience. I'm not sure what the statistics are. But it's very lonely. It's very
Hmm.
lonely. You meet very few Christians. The only real non-Catholic churches you come in contact with are the African brethren who are immigrants to France and who are like, well, we're Christian. So there's like the, I don't know, the Congolese Church of, Jesus. And so you can like go there and it's just, as a French kid, it's just a really like not French vibe. Everyone's dancing and clapping and singing, praising the Lord. And you're like, what is happening? So it's very lonely. Um, evangelical Christianity in France is considered to be a cult in general.
Hmm.
Southern Baptists are on a list of cults in France. So it's just a very different space, right? The French have this understanding that um, the state religion is called laïcité, which means secularism.
Hmm.
So in French society, what's expected is that you will show your Frenchness,
Hmm.
not your whatever else you are. Your Frenchness
Hmm.
is, you're polite, you You speak well, you comport yourself in a certain way. There's a certain sort of expectation of what society does. You can keep that Christ stuff, that Christian stuff, your beliefs, those stay definitely at home. They've actually passed a law in France that you're not allowed to display a cross on a necklace or a hijab or a kippeh, the Jewish
Mm,
you're not allowed to display those in government places, like places of state, like schools, public schools. You're not allowed to wear anything of religious note. And so it's basically you do that at home. Good for you if you like that. But outside, we're all French. And that
mm,
means we're all secular. You're not allowed to share the gospel within 100 meters of any public building, which means you basically can't share the gospel legally in town. And by that, I mean you can't like proselytize. You can't like walk up to people and shake their hand or give them a tract or anything like that. Um, so yeah, it's very different. It's very post-Christian. Chat, I'm really sorry. Can we pause this? I have someone at the door.
sure. Oh, sure, no problem. Was there, I know you were homeschooled. How was, kind of French history portrayed? Do you remember as far as like
Mhm.
Christian history and then the movement to kind of the secularism of today? What
French
was your
history.
experience?
Um, I don't remember really being taught a lot of Christian. If Christianity was sort of it's interesting. I never actually thought about that because obviously I'm a huge fan of history. But Christianity is not really one of those topics that you discuss so much in French history. You talk about the Gauls before Rome came, and then you talk about Caesar and Rome sort of taking over France, and then you talk about the all of the people movements that came through France after the fall of the Roman Empire. Good Lord. After the fall of the Roman Empire, and then you talk about the Huns and the Goths and the Visigoths and like the Ostrogoths, and they all settled in France, and then you talk about um, the Charles Martel, the father of Charlemagne, and then you talk about Charlemagne, and you talk about the Charles Martel stopping the invasion of the Moors in southern France, and then you talk about how Charlemagne sort of standardized things and made the first Holy Roman Empire. So there is always, let's just say, a proximity to
Mm,
the fact that France is just steeped through and through culturally and historically in the faith, but it's not usually talked about. It's always through the lens of this king came and then this king came and then this thing happened and then this king came and then France was unified and then there was this and the Cathars and like that kind of stuff. And then of course there's a huge focus on, the les luminaires, the people of the Enlightenment, and
mm,
Voltaire, and then of course the French Revolution, um, all of that.
mm,
That's sort of much more the focus, and then of course yeah, liberty, equality, fraternity. What does that play off? And I was homeschooled in France, and even the French homeschooling is very controlled by the state in the sense of like curriculum has to
mm,
cover A, B, C, D things. The curriculum I took was very old, which was funny because it still showed like one third of Africa as colonies,
mm,
which is just colonies of France, which is a crazy vibe. It's kind of like France at the pinnacle of its empire
mm.
state was kind of the courses I I um I was taught. Anyway, then we did 1 year of American homeschool to see what that was like, and I was like, what is this?
Well, so what stood out to you? Like what was
What stood out to me is like, why are we talking about this kid chopping down a cherry tree? What in the world? I've learned like 200 kings from Caesar to like Napoleon, and then there's this dude with an axe chopping down a cherry tree. Like, what is this? So it was just so strange to me. And of course, obviously, the American history starts basically at the well, there's the prehistory, but it starts with the discovery of America by Europe kind of thing. And then from that, so it's like 500 years old, 400 years of the state, and then another 100 years of exploration and colonization. But that's like nothing in the grand scape of history, you know? So it's just funny. So you sort of go, well, I guess they have to fill the textbooks with something, and they have such a short history to go over.
Well, let me ask you this. So, I know you don't speak for all French people, but what would you say, or at least growing up, what was the perception of the United States uh, from a French perspective?
Gosh. I would say I definitely don't speak for all of France. Right? I grew up around English speakers. I grew up around Americans, so I had a different view than many because I knew some Americans.
Mm,
But I would say that the perception in France is it's kind of like how can you be Napoleon when I'm Napoleon? You know, France
mm.
is the best thing ever in the whole world. So how can America be the best thing ever in the whole world? Clearly, they've got something wrong, you know. But yeah, I would say there's a couple of things, right? Culturally, like most of Europe, France loves American culture. You know, rock, um, the big cars, the Western movies, Hollywood's
Mm.
like the traditional when I was growing up, right, which was the 80s and 90s. That was kind of
When
like,
the show Dallas was big, right?
yeah, Dallas was
Yeah.
big. Little House on the Prairie still ran on TV. All that kind of stuff. Of course, overdubbed. Everything was overdubbed. Um, so culturally, there's a lot of like enjoyment of France. If you have relatives that are in America, which I didn't, but if you did, you they're like, oh, they're the rich relatives, right? Because they went over there and they made all the money because everyone in America is rich. You know, that's the sort of perception. Um, so that's at the sort of cultural level. When it comes to the social level, they do consider Americans to be kind of juvenile, like
Mm,
what a teenage what an oversized teenager would do it with a bunch of adults. Like he's bigger, so he can
mm,
throw his weight around, but he just doesn't quite get it because he's
mm,
so young. He hasn't experienced all the things we've experienced. That's kind of the undergird and the under the underpinning, or let's just say what's the strata underneath what people think about America. But of course America is the global superpower. France doesn't like that. That's why de Gaulle refused to have American nukes put into France, because he was like, no, we will build our own nukes, and no American submarines because we'll build our own submarines and all that kind of stuff. So there's tension there for sure. It's like we will not just be a satellite nation. We
mm,
will be our own nation. And yeah, so there's some of that for sure.
mm,
It is. So it just depends on what strata you go by. And of course they view Christianity as the unenlightened view. Like if you believe in Christianity, you're just still too dumb
mm,
kind of thing. And so when you're sharing the gospel in France, you have to start by proving to people that you can think. You have to start by saying, "Oh,
mm,
you read so and so," and "Oh yes, I've read Camus." And did you think of this character in Camus? And why do you think he was that way? And then from there, you're like, "Oh yeah,
mm,
don't you know the Bible talks about that same thing, and it says it in this verse like this." And like, "Oh, I didn't know that was in the Bible." And then you go back to some other great thinker, and then you swivel back to the. You have to sort of show them that you're a fully cognizant human.
mm,
And then once they know you, then you can be like, well, I have something that you don't have. And that the peace and like the fruit of living a life of following the Lord is an attractive thing. And of course, postmodernism has no foundation. And so a person that has a foundation um, has a quality about them that is just appealing.
mm,
That's one of the reasons why Islam is such a scary thing for Europe, because they're postmodernists, right? And postmodernism, right? It's that view that whatever you think is fine. That's your truth, right?
mm,
Call it mon vécu, which means my lived experience, right? It's my thing. And so you come along and you say, well, there's your thing for sure, but there's the thing. And
Mm,
it's the thing regardless of whether you agree with it or not. And it just throws people like, wait, what? You can't say that. So un that's so, intolerant,
mm,
It doesn't go with the French ethos, but truth is truth. And
mm.
it stands out. Anyway, I know that was a way longer question, way longer answer than you wanted. Please cut all of that out.
No, I'm
Please
not
cut
cutting
whatever
that.
you need
No,
out.
no, I edit very little. Well, let me ask you, speaking of living it out. Okay, so you ended up as a missionary in Mexico.
Oh, more like a volunteer that was doing
Mm,
Christian. Like I think
mm,
missionaries has this fuller implication of like I was in this place and I was going to convert everyone around me, but I was doing work that was like for example, I ran a kitchen in a youth place that they did youth camps and stuff like that. I ran a kitchen for like 6 months. I probably cooked meals for 50 to 70 people 3 times a day, but I was doing it for the Lord. So technically that's mission work, but it's not like, you know what I mean? There's just
yeah,
mission and there's mission work.
sure.
Anyway,
Well,
go ahead.
let me fast forward and pivot to I know I'm jumping over a lot of things, but I really want to get here. Ever since I've known you and your wife, um, you've been involved in fostering.
Mm.
How did you get into that? Like how, I don't want to like say too much because I don't want to embarrass you, but like if people could know you, you guys really truly live out your faith. Um, it's something to see, really. And like I said, I don't want to embarrass you, but like really, you are a couple that when I see you, it's like, wow, they are not just preaching something like they are all in. And you always hear the accusation against Christians, they care about babies before they're born, but they don't care about humans after they're born or whatever this accusation is. And I don't know about everybody else, but that's not the case for y'all. How did you get into fostering?
You're asking such a massive question. Um, you know, 2 Sundays from today is Orphan Sunday.
Mm,
I'm actually teaching in the class on Orphan Sunday, and I'm actually sort of talking with Rebecca about this because um it's such a big deal, you know. Um how we got into it. I know that Rebecca has always wanted over the years. She's always wanted to have more than 2 kids, and the Lord's just not made that happen. And she's just a really good parent. She's just a good parent. She's a good woman of God, and she knows how to parent very well. And she's taught me a lot of stuff, and so I parent too. But I've never wanted to foster. I've always known that it's the right thing to do, but I've never wanted to do it because, well, I mean, we go to Prestonwood, everyone's richer than us. Everyone's got a life that's better put together than ours. And you're just like, look, we just have to like do the things. We have to like find the better jobs and we have to make all that stuff while, of course, still trying to raise our children to love the Lord and serve the Lord and to do mission projects and all these things. But for me, what really started us down the path was after the election when the law changed to so that Roe versus you knew the writing on the wall that at least Texas was going to really be a state where abortion was difficult to have. And I voted for that. I voted for that big time, right? And you put it so well. People say, well, you care about children when they're in the womb, but not when you go out. That's the meme. It's the meme everywhere, right?
mm,
And there was just something in my heart about there's it's a little bit like anything when it comes to the difference between the political version of Christianity and the version that you're going to have when you stand before the Lord.
mm,
Those are not the
mm,
same thing, right? I like to use the example of What's the difference between if someone comes to my house, knocks on the door, and says, "I'm hungry, I need help." As a Christian, what is my response? My response has to be give to him that asketh of you, and to him that, do not turn thyself away. If a brother has no cloak and you have two, give him your, like, there's all of this stuff that just instantly, it's right there, right? It's front of mind. But I'll tell you what the Bible doesn't say to do. The Bible doesn't say vote that everyone on the street has to give that guy something. The Bible tells me what I have to do and
Mm,
informs my vote decisions, but it doesn't tell me that I can pawn off my responsibility on the community,
mm,
right? And so we saw these laws passing, and I was just like, if we don't do something as Christians after voting for this, after making it so much harder for women to have abortions, if we don't do that, well, then we're hypocrites.
mm,
And I was like, well, I can't say that without doing we have to consider it. We have to pray. And so of course you go through this giant list. It's there's all the list. It's right there. I don't make enough money. We don't have time. Our house is too small. What about what it's going to do to our girls? It's chaos. Our girls are finally old enough that we can start, going on date nights every so often and leave them home and they're fine. Like there's this whole giant list. We're finally starting to have a social life. It's wonderful. And but each of those things, you stop and you actually put them in words, and you can't do that without the Lord just reminding you of Scripture. We don't have enough money. Well, my God shall supply all your needs. Okay. Well, we don't have the time. Well, what did Jesus do, right? And there's in this world you will have trouble, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Well, we're missioning in other ways. Okay, but what is true religion? True religion is taking care of the widow and the orphan, right? Those are like every
mm,
excuse that I could come up with that I felt like, and I call them excuses now, but every reason, every valid reason that I could come up with in my mind, the Lord just very lovingly and very slowly over several years just showed me that it was hypocrisy, that it was just
mm.
my trying to escape from what I knew that I needed to do. And so, yeah, we started the process. Of course, when I told Rebecca, I think we should start doing this, she was like, absolutely. She was
Mm.
her perspective is we already have kids, we're already parenting, might as well do it some more. She's crazy. Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, so we did, we it took us like because COVID hit, we started our paperwork for fostering right around the same time as COVID. So it took us like a year and a half to get all the paperwork done. Because we started with one organization and then we switched over to one that was more local. We did all our paperwork through Buckner, and shout out Buckner because God bless them. They're such a great organization, and I don't really know, uh, yeah, if you know anything, if you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area, Buckner's a great place to volunteer and serve, and they're full on. They're wonderful. So we did our
wow.
our thing through Buckner. We finished our approvals and our home studies and our, preparing space, and you have to have like a room and all this kind of stuff. So our daughters moved in together. So they bunked in the same room so that we'd have a room for fostering. And we said, okay, we're opening our home on Monday. I think it was Monday the 19th. And Tuesday night, uh,
Mm.
at 11 o'clock at night, we got our first call and we had our first kid placed in our home that night. And it was Maria, who we've now adopted. And it was, it's crazy. You get that call, you're like, it's 11 o'clock at night. You're like, you just know this is it, so you pick
Mm.
up the phone and they're like, we have a baby, she's 6 months old. This is the situation she's in. Do you have space? Can you take her? And so we said,
Wow.
yeah, okay. And so, like, okay, well, we'll be there in, an hour or so. And so we're like, okay,
Mm.
well, what does she have? Because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what age, you don't
Mm.
know what gender, you don't know anything. And so they're like, well, she has a onesie and she's 6 months old. That's it. So we go to the store, we ran down to Kroger. Turns out that Walmart isn't open at midnight in our area. So we went down to Kroger. We found a Kroger that was open. We bought formula. We bought a pack of onesies. We bought a pack of diapers, and that's it.
Mm.
And we got a little tiny crying baby at 1 in the morning. And yeah, so that's kind of how we got into it. I have to shout out the Blend because that's our small group at church. They rallied so hard around us
Mm.
in that time. They just I had to go out of town the next morning. So
Wow.
we had the baby in our house at 1, and I at 5 o'clock I got up and my bag was already packed, and I had to get on a flight. I had to go to Florida for work. So I flew, and then when I came back, our house was full of bags of baby stuff. Someone came
Mm.
from our class um, and put installed a baby seat in the car for my wife because we didn't have one. She couldn't go anywhere, and you have to do all these things with the child as soon as you get them, doctor's visits and appointments, and all these things have to happen by law within the first 48 hours. So there's a whole like process that you have to sort of get into, and then it just falls into the rhythm, right? You have visits with CPS, and you have visits with CASA, which is court appointed supervision for the child. You have all these people, they come, they go through your house every month to check for if you're keeping all the meds safely locked up, and that there's no like weapons hanging around the house, and that they check the room of the child, they check the child to make sure that they're well cared for and not in any sort of danger. And you just discover that you can do a new normal, and that new normal is just changes all the time. And then
What was that like?
go ahead. Sorry.
What was that like, that first moment when she was dropped off and you had no experience, and what was that like?
Um, there were two parts of it, right? One was we were very well prepared by Buckner. The
Mm.
classes are very sort of, I mean, they're kind of terrifying because they prepare you for everything. They're like, and now
Yeah.
if a child is trying to strangle you, this is the right way to like break the chokehold without hurting the child. You're like, oh my gosh, what in the world?
Mm.
So you have that
Wow.
sort of side of things. But on the other end, you kind of you hopefully you go into it with your eyes open, and you've committed to the Lord. I know that this is going to hurt. It's going to hurt our hearts. It's going to hurt in some ways. It's going to hurt our family, but we're all, I mean, our girls were 100% behind it. Like, we did not do this without asking them. We're like, this is what we're thinking of doing. What are your thoughts? And they were both like, obviously we need to do this. Obviously we need to give of ourselves to help those who need it. So we kind of knew going in that our hearts were going to connect instantly, and that it was going to hurt, because you just don't know. You don't know. Every child that we've only had four in our home, but every child that we've had has had its own way of trying to connect, and of trying to, they don't know how to love so often, and they just do what they know how to do. If it's scream, if it's throw a tantrum because that's how they get attention, uh well, that's what they do. And it just kind of, you just have to recognize, I'm just going to love, and I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to protect, and I'm going to comfort, but it's never going to feel nice for me.
Mm.
My love cup is not going to be full by this. um and then all of a sudden it is, you know like, Maria is such a joy for us, and we obviously, we the wonderful story with her is that we got to adopt her, and we know that it's heartbreak for her. We would have preferred for us to be able to pour into her mom, and to connect with her mom, and to bring her mom to the Lord. But people in these broken situations make difficult choices, and that's, we can't fix that. But for Maria and for us, she is a a light bulb of happiness. She's just a joy. She's just a joy, man. Um,
Mm.
I can't stress that enough. And you know it's not because of it's kind of weird, with your own kids you think, well, you better, shape up and you better represent us well, When with Maria, it's just like, look at you. You're such a little light. You're such a little light.
Mm,
And it's got nothing to do with me. I had no
mm,
genetic involvement whatsoever. I just, have to keep you safe and I have to give you Jesus and I have to make sure that you have everything you need. But this is all the work of God. And it kind of makes you realize it's the same with your own kids. You
mm,
you, you play much less of a role in their walking with the Lord than you think you do.
mm.
Just get to show them the way and then you trust the Lord to fill it in. Anyway, so I don't know if that answers your question, but there you go.
No, that's awesome. Well, what would you say somebody who's maybe been thinking about going down that path, what would you say to them?
Give me 1 second, please. You knocked
Sure,
it
no
over.
problem.
You
No
read it.
problem. Um, sorry, I'm laughing about the modem thing. Okay.
That's crazy, yeah. Poor
Um,
timing, poor timing is all I have to say. I'm sorry about that.
oh, that's no problem. Well, I was saying, if somebody was thinking about going down this path, what would you say to them? Because it seems to me like it's one of those things where, uh, you think about like the parable of the sower. I mean, it's not a one-to-one thing, but it's like, they gladly receive the news and then they go away and it's just like gone. It's
Oh.
like this is like an easy thing to get excited about, but it's like if somebody wants to,
I'm 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 trying to see. I have a book on my shelf somewhere. It's called Everybody Can Do Something.
mm,
Um, this is what I would say. So I would say two things. If someone came up to me and said, "Hey, how can I start fostering?" Like they want to actually like have kids in their home. I would just probably my wife would say something a little different, and she's the wise one. But I would say two things. I would say, first of all, good for you. Good for you because it needs more people need to do it. Um, and in brutal honesty, more people are called to do it and just don't want to because it's just not a fun thing to do. It's just not the
mm,
plan you have for your life. It's not. You want to do, I don't know, so many other things, right?
mm,
It's but so one part of me wants to say, hey, just bear in mind it's not easy. It's not
mm,
easy, right? But on the other hand, I'm like, well, good for you. Good for you for stepping up. If the Lord is calling you to foster, um, well, get ready for the suck. But guess what?
mm,
Our Lord did the suck for us.
mm,
So it's kind of like you never want to you never want to dissuade the fighter before he goes into war by saying, "Oh,
mm,
war's going to be no, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to?" Because the battle's on. We have to do the thing. So on the one hand, you want to just give a firm pat on the back and say, "Hey, I respect this. I respect your decision to do this hard thing because your king and commander has told you to do it." On the other side, I would say, um, make sure you have a crew. Make sure you have,
mm,
make sure that well, first of all, your spouse. Don't foster thinking your spouse will get the vision. That would
mm,
be a huge mistake. So you have to be united on that. But then you have to know who your people are. Those people who are going to show up when you say, "Oh my goodness, I just found out that the foster kids all have lice." And so I
mm,
have to clean my whole house. Everything, every piece of bedding, every cuddle, every everything soft
mm,
has to go to the laundromat to go through the dry clean to go through the hot dryer to kill any lice eggs. I need help. who's gonna, you need those people around you because life is gonna continue and you're still gonna have your doctor's appointments and you're still gonna have to do your job and all of these things. Um, so you need to have your crew. But what I would say to those who are listening is everybody can do something.
Mm.
And it's a hard thing to say. And I say it having gone through the process of having to like open my hands of my own heart before the Lord and understand that I didn't want to, and I still don't want to in many moments. But um the battle cry is given and the command is clear. We are all adopted into the family of God.
Mm.
And true religion is to take care of the widow and the orphan. That's all straight from the mouth of the Father. And so the question really has to be for the Christian, it has to be, what can I really do? And so a book like Everybody Can Do Something, I think I see it on the shelf over there, but a book like that is very short and it's all about understanding that there are all kinds of levels of things that you can do. In the book,
Mm.
it gives this example of a guy who ran a successful barbecue place, and his church was starting to like focus on fostering, and he was like, "Well, I don't have the time to foster, but what I can do is I can give free meals to any foster family.
Mm. Mm.
I don't have the space in my house at all to put anyone in here, but I can take foster kids to the park on the weekend. I can do respite care for families who can't like there you don't have to start by having a child in your house. You never
Mm.
have to have a child in your house if that's not the way the Lord leads you. But saying that you don't have to do anything, that's a different thing. And so I think there's definitely comfort for any Christian who feels the call of the Lord and who just goes, I want to, I just know my limitations.
Mm.
Okay, well, within those limitations, what can you do? And then just do that. It could be, I mean, that book is full of really good examples. I'll see if I can text you a
Yeah,
um
that'd be great. I'll put it in the
picture of
description.
the cover. But yeah, that would be what I would say. And we you have you seen Possum Trot? You've probably seen the movie, the Possum Trot movie.
No, you know what? I need to. I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, I want to watch that movie, and then I
Oh man, oh
I
man.
haven't watched it yet. No, I need
That's
to.
that's going to be a hard one. You watch that, especially if you're sort of leaning this way, and you watch that and you go, "Oh, I see,"
Mm.
because it was this tiny little church a very poor church in the middle of like this, well, in Possum Trot, this tiny little village in
Mm.
East Texas, like. And just that one church who made this their mission, they emptied out the foster service within 100 miles of their church completely.
Wow.
There were no
Wow.
children
Oh my goodness.
waiting to be put into foster or adoption within 100 miles of them.
Mm.
And there were a church that probably had like 100 people in it. And so you in that movie, there's a scene where the pastor goes to this big, big, beautiful church, a more what you'd consider a Texas church, and
Mm.
he's like going there basically hat in hand to ask for support. And they make a point of putting this like on the pastor's reviewing for he's like rehearsing his sermon, and on the wall there's on the billboard there's this big sign. I mean on the prompter there's this big sign, $1 million to fund this project for our church. And here comes the guy who's leading a flock that's fostering all these kids, and he's like fixing radiators, and he's and you just fostering is dirty. Fostering
Mm.
is in the mud. Fostering is
Mm.
is it's in a place of brokenness that is heartbreaking. And sometimes it's easy in the US, and I'm sure everywhere in the world, but in an affluent place, to be repulsed by that. and to think we can find other ways to sacrifice that don't get us so close to the sort of grime.
Mm,
And that's just something to for each person to think about and pray about and sort of really know with the Lord, what am I called to do and what am I saying no to because I'm not, I don't like that. It's just icky.
mm,
That's not your question, I know. Your question was, what would you say to someone who wants to start in it? I would say find like-minded people. I would say you go for it. You pick up that weapon that the Lord is putting in your hands and you charge towards the enemy. And everyone should do something towards it.
mm,
And because we are called to. If Jesus, yeah, this sounds so preachy. I'm sorry. I'm really not trying to be preachy. These are the things that the Lord said to me that made me do it. If he left the halls of heaven, as we say, and came down and became a servant of, no form or comeliness, a friend of the publican and the sinner, um, tempted in all ways such as we, the God of the universe, if he did that for me, well, then I can take my North Dallas home and I can open it to a child who's got nothing, or I can take a kid for the afternoon. I can, like I can't not do that if my Savior did what he did for me.
mm.
And yeah, it's just not an easy thing to talk about. And it's so uncomfortable. Anyway, there's your answer.
Mm. David, that's awesome, man. Mm,
Um, I would say this as well. Um, there's, as I said it kind of already, but there is space for everyone who feels called. There is space in the
mm,
capacity that you have. It's like the call, it's come as you are. It's not be the warrior that knows how to do all the things and then come. It's come as you are. Make the food, fold the clothes, find the new baby clothes for the like what happened with us. Oh, I have an old car seat. Oh, we don't need this crib. Like all that kind of stuff where you're like, the call is out, and I am a soldier. Therefore, I must respond. How can I do so?
mm. That's so good. David?
Can I close with one other thing?
Yeah,
Just
please do.
this. So, we, as you know, my friend, we're kind of crazy like this. This is kind of our, as they say in French, raison d'être. It's our mission
Mm,
to be missional. It's our family's mission to be missional. And not everybody is like that. And that's completely fair and that's completely understandable. In that space, my thing has always been I'll say yes. I'll say yes. Oh, we a couple more kids? Sure. Like whatever it is, I'll say yes because I feel like the Lord did for me more than this. Therefore, I must do something. I can't just say no, right?
mm,
At one point we were fostering three girls at the same time. And you know this because you've been around us during this time. Three girls at the same time, and we were already fostering one. We thought we had our hands pretty full, but the call came out. Hey, there are these two girls. They're in a temporary shelter. Um, they need a place, and so we said yes. And it was more than we could do. It was more
mm,
than I would. Um, I felt like it did. It didn't do the best things in the moment for our girls. Like I use the analogy like our girls are so strong and they're so like, oh, we're gonna follow Jesus, we're gonna do all the things. And it was kind of like if you're working out and your kid comes along and they're like, Dad, what are you carrying? And you're like, oh, I'm carrying you.
mm.
They're like, "Oh, I'll do that too." And they sort of try and pick it up for a second, and you let them because it's kind of sweet to see, look at you, you're trying so hard. But then at a certain point, you're like, "Yeah, put that down. It's going to hurt your back."
Yeah,
Just
I use that analogy with my kids all the time.
that's a good analogy. And so I realized that having these girls in our home for a little while, we had them in our home for 5 months, was a good experience for our daughters to stretch them, to help them see what sacrifice could look like, to help them understand what other kids had been through, because the girls were pretty open with their experiences. But at a certain point, I just knew that it was not good for the girls and it was
Mm,
not good for us. And so the Lord worked it out that the girls moved on. And I was very thankful for that. And I realized, and maybe this will help someone who's listening, but I realized that we're not called to walk, right? We're called to run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus. And if you use the analogy of the run, life life is a a marathon. You want to run with patience the race. Sometimes you have to sprint, but it's important to recognize when you're sprinting and to figure out how long you can safely sprint for before you go back to your normal run. If not,
mm,
you will crash and burn and you will run no more.
mm. That's good.
So my sort of conclusion on that was it's probably 20 to 30% above what I think is max. That's where my real max is because the Lord
Mm,
calls you to not comfort, right? If you're comfortable as a Christian, watch out because, the
mm,
most comfortable place for a Christian, the most uncomfortable place for a Christian is a comfortable place.
mm,
And so you figure out what your baseline is and you think about 20% more than that. How do I push myself more? That's where I need that, at least for me, that's my rule of thumb now. That's where I need to be. I need to be 20% above max. But if I'm like 80% above max, I can do that for a week, but I can't do that from now until Jesus comes back.
mm,
I have to recognize when I'm sprinting and I have to back down from that. And I actually felt guilty when the girls left because I was like, we're not helping them anymore. At the same time, I was like, I can't keep doing this for our family. And now, I mean, the Lord's put them in a great place. He worked stuff
mm,
out for them really well. But it's just important to know and to recognize that.
mm,
What is my comfort? What is what I'm actually called to do? And when am I just doing this extra bunch because I think I have to, but the Lord is not actually calling me to it?
mm,
So find your marathon and just plug away.
mm. David, that's good. Man, thank you so much for spending time with me. And wow, I'm encouraged. And I know anyone listening to this will be also. So thank you so much for your example and for spending time with me.
You're so welcome, man. I'm for anyone listening, I am not a polished person. So if I said anything that seemed really over the top, like, oh, you must, remember, I'm just a guy. You talk with Jesus. He loves you. He has the perfect plan for you. If you want to serve him, he will show you how. And his yoke is easy and his burden is light. You do have to put on the yoke though.
Mm,
So there's your balance. But he loves you. He's got you. And if you're if you're planning on getting on this journey, man, congratulations. I'll back you up all the way, bro.
mm. Thanks, David.
Have a great day, brother.
You too.
Bye.